Hello again, everybody. Welcome to another exciting episode of TJ's Thoughts. So today I'm going to be talking about the final episode of season 1 of Future Girl. I am super, super sad that the first season had 3 episodes because it was awesome. I loved it so much. I've been a huge fan of Amy Dallin forever. Ever since I saw her first talking comics on the Geek and Sundry Vlogs channel, massively, massively entertained by this amazing woman. And now Gina DeVivo is phenomenal, and I think she's amazing and fun. And Heather Wood is so awesome and really, really cool. And like the whole cast is just really, really great. So the final episode. They say save the best for last. In this particular instance, oh boy, did they. This episode is phenomenal. And it has a little bit of everything. It's got some great one-liners, some really sassy, snappy comebacks and stuff like that are littered throughout the entire thing. It's got some phenomenal sight gags and physical comedy, which again, I'm a huge sucker for. And they pull them off really, really well in this. Spoiler alert, there's kind of like this massive brawl at the end. And you know how I made comments last time about like the fight scenes and how I'm one of those people that can be taken out of a movie really quickly by seeing a poorly choreographed fight scene? This didn't have that problem. Aside from one kind of awkward moment that had nothing to do with fighting and everything to do with trying to make it less awkward than it could have been, it was phenomenal. Like, everyone was having fun. One of the reasons I'm so kind of critical of fight scenes is that if you know what you're doing and you understand camera angles and how to use the nap correctly, the nap is the dudge sound you hear in old martial art movies when they punch somebody. Yeah, that sound doesn't actually exist. It was created, and in stage combat we call that the nap. If you time the nap correctly with reactions and camera angles and stuff like that, even if you know it's fake, it's very hard to tell that it's not. And I think they did that really, really well in this. I think my favorite use of it, just because it's corny and still comes off really, not really believable because it's not, but just it comes off well, as there's a scene towards the end where Viking comes in and just hits like 4 or 5 people with her hammer. And they sold, like, the reaction sold it well, and the nap was, and it was a fun scene. The full list of just crazy awesome people that they got to do this final thing is insane. I'm actually going to read all of the guest stars, and it's insane. You have Orion Akaba, Abby Drake, Lauren Francesca, Jocelyn Kelville, Dale Kingsmill, Yuri Lowenthal, Stephen Lunsford, Jason Charles Miller, Max No Sleeves, Tara Platt, Jared Rosen, Kyle Walters, Jimmy Wong, and Stephanie Woodburn. Whoa! A lot of these names are huge names. Tara Platt and Yuri Lowenthal are huge names in the voice acting community. They've guest starred on Tabletop a couple of times. They've guest starred in quite a few different things. They're amazing, wonderful people. Orion Akaba is formerly of Critical Role and is also a very, very accomplished voice actor and is now doing his own thing relatively successfully as well. He does his own streams. He has kind of like an audio drama that he's created centered around his character from Critical Role. That's kind of cool. I haven't had a chance to check it out yet, but I heard good things about it. Let me see other names that I recognize. Dale Kingsmill is a former Geek and Sundry vlogger. One of the people I absolutely adore, and she's phenomenal in this. She plays this really cool, creepy character. Who are other people that I recognize? Max No Sleeves I recognize, but I can't remember from where. Jimmy Wong, brother of Freddie Wong, very, very successful, accomplished web series actor. He was in Video Game High School, along with about 1 billion other things. And he's a phenomenal actor in general. He doesn't really disappoint in this either. Like, he's just fun to watch. And then Steph Woodburn, one of the hosts on Geek and Sundry's Twitch channel. She's done just a crap ton of different things. and is really, really good. I loved the character that she played. She basically played like a dominatrix style character, and it was just hilarious to see her interact with everyone. The only real critique I can really give to this show is there's one scene where Orion Akaba, who's playing a future person, and Steph are kind of squaring off. And spoiler alerts, Steph takes his little, I'm assuming it's his version of the multi that Curie carries all the time. But she's sitting there and she's pushing random buttons and eventually pushes the right button and transforms Orion's head into a horse's head. And then he kind of charges her and they collide into another group of people and you hear a bowling pin sound as they all collide, and it's funny. The scene itself, I think, was intended to, as she sits there pushing more and more buttons and getting closer and closer to the big one that does the bad stuff, was supposed to kind of, give you this little bit of tension, like, ooh, what's going to happen? Oh! And it's in the middle of this giant brawl where they're cutting between these different scenes of people fighting and doing all these crazy things. And it just, for me personally, fell a little bit flat, and it kind of, like the whole scene was building, and then you get to this one, and it just becomes kind of dead until the horse thing happens, and then it starts going again. And so that was my only really part where I'm like, yeah, I don't think that works quite as well. It was still really, entertaining. But that was the one part where I'm like, okay, I can take a breather now. I can not pay attention for a little bit because this is a dull moment. I think the easiest way, again, if I were directing, which I wasn't, and probably never will, but in my crazy, very, very conceited mind where I was the director, I probably would have given Orion liberty to put in a few either short one-word lines or even just like vocal nonsense as she pushed buttons. Something like, because he's just sitting there like this the entire time. And I think the scene would have just had that little bit more tension if he's like, well, don't, but you, and then he kind of grimaces before she does the big thing. I think that would have added to it. The scene itself, he's just kind of standing there for the most part. Going like I've watched it like half a dozen times now because it's amazing. Like the whole thing is just amazing. I can't remember if his facial expression really changed beyond static scare. If he did, and I'm doing Orion a disservice. I'm sorry, Orion. You're an amazing person. But I really think just those little bits of vocal inflection there would have created a little bit more tension in the scene and would have been a little bit more satisfying when the end result happens. The other thing about that is as he charges, and I don't think there's a better way to do this, it just looked a little bit awkward, was as he charges, he's like, ugh, and then he goes and he basically grabs Steph's hips and runs her backwards. And it just looked a little bit awkward. And I can understand completely why they did it, because you don't want to be like feeling up your co-star on one of these things. Or grabbing, especially since I don't think that head had eye holes. So the fact that Orion was able to grab onto anything that wasn't really lewd was a fantastic thing. But it still just looked just slightly awkward as he just plants his hands on her hips and he pushes her forward. I don't think there's a better way to do this scene, but you just kind of sit there and go, wow, I wonder what that was like to film. And again, that's just me from the actor in me. I'm like, wow, that must have been a very weird scene to film. So beyond that, like, I loved it so much. The one thing I would like to see from season 2, and we have to have a season 2, Future Girl people, I know you guys watch this because at least one of you comments on this and you favorite it and stuff like that. Future Girl people, we need another season. However you have to do this, Kickstarter, Indiegogo, Pact with the Devil, whatever it takes, I am totally willing to be a blood sacrifice for this. It's such a good show. The premise is funny. The actresses, I think, really got the entirety of their characters and everything by the third episode, and they really kind of emboldened them. And it was just great great, really entertaining web series in general. Please give us another season. We really need it. The one thing I would really like to see out of another season, though, is throughout these episodes, Viking has been kind of a secondary character. Future Girl, for right now, is really about the interactions between M and Curie, which is great. They're really good together. Gina and Amy have fantastic chemistry. But I think Viking is a little bit underutilized, and I think an episode where she really is the character that's driving everything, as opposed to kind of like in this one, she's in there while Em and Curie are fighting, and she comes in and talks about Thursblot, and then she leaves for most of the episode and comes back in the very end. So she's used as a plot device, but she's not really used as a character. And I'm not saying this is a bad thing, because again, the episode worked perfectly and it was great, but I really would love to see the Viking character explored a little bit more and have a little bit more interaction than kind of the voice of reason or the plot device that she has been throughout the whole thing. Beyond that, it was great. The other thing I want to say real quick before I end this, because this is getting really long, it's actually longer than the episode you're going to watch when I tell you to watch it, there's this scene at the very beginning where Gina does this amazing thing. I have no idea how she does it, but she does it so smooth, where she just comes up to the back of the couch, kind of sits on it, throws her legs over, and just kind of plops down in this perfect kind of relaxing position. And I think she did it one other time during the show, and she just does it perfectly. Every single time it looks just super effortless. And it's just, it kind of feeds into her character. Like, as much as things don't generally tend to go well for M, in general, she always has this ability to kind of like recover and go, no, I meant to do that, totally. And I think that little thing that she does is just kind of the perfect, a description of her character. Is like, well, she may, she wanted to go to the couch, she was on the wrong side, so she just kind of flips over it very delicately, and then she's instantly in relaxed position. And then she has to get up to get her friends. But yeah, so everything about the show was great. Dale was so funny. She's got a great line in there about cat food that you've got to see. Steph was great. Jimmy was great. Everybody was great. It was so funny. If you guys haven't seen the episode, I will have a link to it in the doobly-doo below. Otherwise, this is the last episode of TJ's Thoughts on Future Girl, because there's nothing else to think about until they make another season. So, in the comments below, please let me know, what do you guys want to see me give my opinion on next? Obviously, there's things like the Ghostbusters new trailer. There's new movies that are coming out. There's new web series that are coming out. Geek and Sundry just launched their first episode of their new syndicated show. And I can't remember what it's called. Give me a couple seconds here and I'll be able to tell you. Computer, go faster. I have a super fast computer. This should not the Rift World Chronicles. There we go. Rift World Chronicles came out today. So if you guys would like to see future episodes of TJ's Thoughts on Rift World Chronicles or any other web series or television series, let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, that's all for me today, and I will see you guys probably either tomorrow or next week for another random vlogging. All right? Bye-bye!